Okay, good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Ian Delina. Today's Simon is Simon Kuf Peitet 189. Nuzach Bracha Revias with you now. Fourth bracha, we hadn't really discussed even the first three brachas specifically. But the reason it singles out the fourth bracha is because there's people who had different nuschos, different words they add in, and specifically also in Halacha Beis we find that in Beis Avel the actual text of the bracha changes. You add Hamelech Hachai, Hashem is a living king, and you say Kel Emes, Dayan Emes, right? You say Baruch Dayan Emes when someone dies. And also, there's machlokas. Some opinions say you don't say, even though in Halacha Allah you're supposed to say Humehitiv, Humehitiv, Eitiv Lanu, three hatavos, and so like three gemulos. Hashem pays us back. Hu gamlanu, hu gamlenu, yimalenu la'ad. Right? Some people say in Beis Halacha you don't say those things. So, what is this fourth bracha? The Gemara says the fourth bracha is derabanan. The first three bracha is midaraisa. First bracha is about Hashem satiates you, right? He gives you your food. Berachas Haaretz talks about Eretz Yisrael, the bracha of Eretz Yisrael. When we talk about the third bracha, Moni Yerushalayim, we talk about Malchus Beis David, how we aspire to come back to a rebuilt Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash. And that's the end. Then we say Amen, like we learned this week. You say Amen after the first three brachos to signify that's the end of the brachos d'oraisa. Because d'oraisa they talk about ideal. Torah talks about ideal, and the Torah there's no bad in the Torah, right? Well, eventually, right, in Olam Haba, we won't say Dayan Emes, we'll say Hatov Amitiv. We'll only see good. In the truth, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the world, is only good in the world. From a Torah perspective, the pure Torah perspective, there's only good in the world. Even the bad is really good. One day we'll recognize that. The fourth bracha, though, was instituted by the Rabbanon. The Gemara says the reason it was instituted was specifically for Harugi Beitar. There was a large massacre in Beitar after the Chorban Abayis Hasheni, Bar Kochba and things like that. So it says Beitar, so people were, the city was ravaged. The bodies were left out for a long time. But there were two miracles. First of all, didn't decompose. And second of all, they were buried. They ended up getting buried. And for Kavod HaMeis, for honoring a dead person, it's a pretty big thing to be buried. People will do Zaka, do tremendous things. Chazal was a terrorist attack to try to get the body parts and even any ounce of blood of the person to make sure everything in the person is buried as much as possible. So it's according to Judaism, it's a big thing to be buried. And if decomposed, right, there's not much to bury you. So there were two miracles that happened. So obviously these are sad. It was a sad story which happened to Beitar, that it was completely ravaged. All the people were basically killed. It's a sad thing to mention, but we mention it in a positive respect. Tov Ameitev, that Hashem, even in times that are difficult, Hashem gives us an achama, Hashem gives us consolation. They were eventually buried, they didn't decompose. So that's really what bracha Tov Ameitev is. Bracha Tov Ameitev is basically, it's Rabbanan. Rabbanan recognize that even though on a strictly purely Torah level, there's no bad in the world, that people are sad. People don't always feel the best in this world, and there are sorrows. There are bad things that happen to people, including when a relative of someone dies. So a person's in Avelos, and the Rabbanan instituted this bracha to reassure people. Yes, it will be good, right? Hashem will always satiate us. He gives us Eretz Yisrael. He gives give us Binyan Yerushalayim. But even when there's bad in this world, it's really good, and that's why we say Hashem's Melech 3 times, and we say Hatavas. Hashem always does good. We reiterate that 3 times. 3 times is a chazaka, and we say Gemul 3 times. Hashem pays us back. Don't think what you're doing in this world when you're doing the Torah mitzvos, you're not going to get paid back. He paid us back. He pays us back, and He will pay us back. So you should be reassured, even if it looks bad and you're not enjoying yourself. One day it'll get better, and that's also why there's specifically in Beis Avel they talk about saying a little different nusach to stress more, because it's even more sar when you're in a Beis Avel and you're benching. Hashem is living. He's actively living. He's with us. He's always with us. Kelemes Dayan Emes. It's truthful what He did. We say Baruch Dayan Emes when someone dies. Hashem does what He does with the truth, and it's just extra nechama, extra consolation in a very difficult situation. So this fourth bracha is really a realistic bracha. The Rabbanan realize that even though technically we should be very idealistic, but there is reality in this world, and things are not so great a lot of times, especially in a Beis Avel. So therefore, this bracha was instituted on that premise, and therefore we specifically have to say hey, Hatava 3 times, Gmul 3 times, and Beis Avel, you mentioned even more. Talk about Hashem's living, Kel Emes, Dayan Emes. There's machlokas while you say 3 Gmulas and 3 Hatavos. It seems to be the Mishnah Berurah says like the Shach and the Bach here, Shach and Yeridea, that you would say, and it makes sense that you would say it because it's more Nechama to say that Hashem will pay us back, no matter even how bleak it looks now. Hashem will pay us back in the future for what we did, for the righteous things we did in this world. That's the conclusion of today's share. See you tomorrow.